Hi, everyone. It's Brenda back again with another episode of Three Uniques. Today I have on Antonio Zivanovic. Hi,
Hi,
Antonio.
Brenda. How are you doing today?
How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
I got that right at the end there?
So you went Jivanovic? So the Jivanovic.
Zivanovic. Okay, thank you.
Great.
It's important, people, that we pronounce people's last names. So thank you for sharing that with me. So Antonio and I've known each other for a long time. We both live in Vancouver. I got connected to Antonio years ago when I worked in video gaming at Slant Six Games in Grand Island.
Yeah, many years ago now.
I remember you coming to the studio and through HR Tech Group, and you used to speak a lot at HR Tech Group. So, Antonio is the founder and CEO of the Canadian Workplace Culture Index. You also have another company, ReFrame.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And so, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm entrepreneur through and through. I've been an entrepreneur now. Started the first business in early 2000s, incorporated when it was the paper-based system in 2004. Little known fact, when I sent in the papers, the government didn't find it funny, but I thought, nobody knows me. I can name myself whatever I want. And I put the title of janitor on the incorporation papers. I was
Right.
like, I'm cleaning my bedroom. I'm the only one here. I'm working, and then I found out that they didn't have a sense of humor and sent the paperwork back and made me do every page again by hand.
That would be for all the listeners that are maybe like in that sort of millennial group or weren't used to reading Fast Company. Fast Company used to advertise about that a lot, about just like people with all these wacky job titles and stuff, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, we come from that. We come from that era. And you're a dad. You have
Dad of
a partner,
three.
this amazing partner that does amazing things as well.
Yes, I've got three little Spartans, I call them. A 1-year-old Atlas,
Hmm.
and a 3-year-old Rocco, and a 5-year-old Maximus. And my wife is a psychiatry resident, just 16 days away from her completing her Royal College for her fellowship to be a Royal Fellow physician, and so she'll be a psychiatrist.
Amazing, amazing power couple. That's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about the Culture Workplace Index. What's that all about, and why should companies know about this?
Well, the Canadian Workplace Culture Index is we help amplify and certify and um, just help organizations create exceptional organizational cultures. And we're co-creating that with them, and
Hmm.
they're going through a process to identify areas of strengths, areas of opportunities. And so we have a learning model that we look at. Every employee goes through a process on their phone or their computer, and it's a conversational chat survey. It takes each employee about 5 minutes to
Okay.
complete and about 20 minutes to roll out. And in our educational learning model, an organization, after they go through the process, will get an actionable insights report, and it'll tell them where they're emerging, evolving, and excelling. So
Hmm.
rather than telling someone, okay, you're failing here, we
Right.
want to empower people that, hey, everybody's got a starting point, and here's the information to help you move forward from where you're at.
So what makes this culture index different than, say, like when you hear about, like, top 100 companies, McLean's magazine, etc. What's sort of the differentiator working with you?
Great question. There are a number of differentiators. One of them is you can't just have your PR agency that just apply
Hmm.
and get awarded. Every employee, at least 70% of the employees in an organization, have to complete this.
Right.
We have third-party collection data. There's an actionable insights report. There's a national certification. The cost and investment versus time versus the competitors. You can roll this out in 5 to 7 minutes for employee and roll it out in 25 minutes. A lot of the competitors, there's a lot of heavy lifting involved,
Yeah.
and that time is money. And nowadays, I think people just are pressed for time.
Mhm.
And so we want to make it easy, impactful, informational, and help amplify their brand in the community.
Right. And this is important data. I mean, I think, 10, 20 years ago, sometimes in companies would just sort of go through the motions around employee experience and engagement and culture. But now we're starting to see that there's a direct impact on profitability, on revenue, on client customer experience. When the employee is happy, customers are happy. So by being able to get this data like real time and get this system operationalized in real time can be hugely effective for companies. What have you seen? I mean, because obviously it's a trend index report. So, what are some of the trends that you're seeing, especially now, kind of people going back to workplaces? Is there anything that's sort of like this return to workplace through the pandemic? Anything like that is surprising for you?
Yeah, I guess some of the key major insights are Ontario and Quebec report lower positive workplace culture experience and flexibility and much higher negative COVID impacts,
Mm,
as well as racial inequalities are seen across COVID impacts and flexibility.
right.
Education is the strongest factor in experiencing positive workplace culture. And older Canadians are most likely to leave their job for a 5% raise, versus a lot of times people say, oh, millennials are the first to leave and the
Hmm.
young, and people just keep harping on that. Whereas the older are quick to leave for a very low raise, but the younger don't see themselves at their workplace in 3 years.
Right. Okay.
So um, over 30% of workplaces didn't recognize Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah.
Um, some industries are twice as likely to provide employee flexibility for health, family, and unexpected events.
Hmm.
It basically the coasts, so like BC and the Maritimes,
Yeah.
they score the highest workplace culture scores. While if you're in and Alberta,
Hmm.
while if you're in Quebec and Ontario, it was shocking how bleak the results are this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like even just from a COVID standpoint and impact across Canada, obviously those two provinces got hit the most. Alberta, I think, and yeah, some of the prairies were also hit pretty hard. It's not like we escaped those numbers in BC, but I think maybe just our response to it, who knows? I mean, just from what I saw in the news. But, and then I also think about lots of head offices, in Toronto, Ontario, that were probably shut down. A lot of big sort of traditional hierarchical type organizations based in Ontario too. Like if you think about government, insurance, healthcare agencies, those type of things, right? Like, like layers and layers of people and management. And if they just don't have a strong workplace culture before the pandemic, yes, they could scramble and maybe get by during the pandemic, but it was probably going to be a lot tougher.
Mhm. One thing that was really alarming from the research was Black Canadians report the lowest workplace culture scores across all of the areas.
Hmm.
Um, Workplace experience, organizational caring, connection and trust, JEDI. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the acronym JEDI, it stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion,
Thank you.
growth and satisfaction, and loyalty. Whereas Asian Canadians score the highest across all areas, and white Canadians are a little bit in the middle.
Right.
So it's fascinating to see where the results, where the results came in.
And have you always measured um, like the racial statistics as far as the demographics within your survey, or is that something that's just been recent?
This year we've had the research continues to get better and better.
Got it.
In the last year, we've partnered with UBC researchers,
Okay.
and so and the university. So they've really helped us improve the validity and reliability of the data. And so this year we came up with quotas for each area across the country.
Hmm.
So at the beginning, all the data starts coming in when you're collecting all the data across these, and then after a while, it's very hard because you're looking for a person and, that identifies as a certain type of characteristic,
Mhm.
certain type of demographic, certain race, certain, age,
Province,
province,
geography, yeah.
you're looking for a diamond in the rough
Right.
in each area to meet the quota to have representative sample of Canada that can be measured again and again and again with over 95% consistency.
But it's great to see that you put that much robustness into the data collection, right? And the analysis afterwards. So that people, when they're, because I all too often remember doing engagement surveys in my roles as head of HR, head of like people ops, and people denouncing the data. And it's just like, this is what people are saying.
Yeah, the data speaks volumes, and it shares, like, you can repeat this study again and again, and it's true.
Right.
One interesting thing too as well is, when you were talking about flexibility, Black Canadians report the least flexibility
Mm.
and Asian Canadians report the most. So in the this week, we are speaking with different representative samples of people who identify with certain populations within our research. And we are, in addition to rolling the report out, we'll have commentary from a leading D&I expert who identifies as being of Black origin,
Right.
and she's female and in a very senior leadership position. And she's going to be providing commentary on what that means to her and what her interpretation of that data is, in addition to the researchers from UBC.
Right. Through as lived experiences, which is amazing,
Mhm.
right? To even add, not that there needs to be validity around the numbers, but I think, again, as I mentioned earlier, I've worked with some leaders in fairly prominent organizations that would denounce this type of data. So it's like to even have somebody from that background that's, like that is potentially a data point to be able to say, yeah, this is how it's happened to me. This is how I've lived that experience or
Mhm.
how it could be lived. So it's good. It's obviously having an impact, and for the organizations that you're supporting right now, where can people learn more about the survey and check it out and see if this is right for their organization?
You can go to the cultureindex.io. And there's a quick video there, just over a minute long.
Mhm.
And you can see if that is interesting to you and fits the criteria. And then you can just register there and find out more information. And we can walk you through. We'll provide you a sample report and like sample actionable insights report. Provide you with what the process is like. The different elements, the index, the reports, the certification. Um, and that's where you can find out a little bit more.
Okay. All right. Good. So Antonio, I also invited you on the podcast today, and we'll make sure I shall tell the listeners too. We'll make sure that we put it in the show notes too, where they can find you and also your organization. So you're here today to also share your three uniques with us.
Yes.
Okay. So
Love sharing about learning about ourselves and the challenges with that, and the surprising info and what's not surprising, I guess.
okay, cool. So let's hear about your first unique.
My first unique is well-being,
Hmm.
and how that shows up in my life is um, I realize that I only have so much capacity, and that's a belief that I have, and we can maximize our capacity in a number of ways. And one area that really supports Rebecca and Maximus and Atlas and Rocco and I is we have someone help prepare our food
Right.
weekly. So we do that twice a week.
Hmm.
And um, some people might be listening to this and think, well, I don't have enough money to do that.
Hmm.
Um, well, can you pay a person that is making potentially less, and that increases the time for you to work in your superpower?
Hmm.
And so for me, I love hosting. I love having people over, love get-togethers, community, what food does and brings people together. But um, I love spending time more with my family and the people that I love and that are in my community and trying to support people. And so in this fashion, we're giving people an opportunity, and it helps our well-being. I wake up early in the morning. Usually, lately it's been a little different because of the last child wakes up 2, 3 times a night and he's teething and getting molars. But
Right.
I used to get up around 4:30, 4:15.
Mhm.
The gym I'd like to be at the gym at 5, but my gym now opens at 6. I'm hoping they move it to 5 here soon.
Right.
And when I can't get to the gym, I'll put on a weight vest and I'll go for a walk in Pacific Spirit Park with the kids in
Mhm.
a stroller, and I might have some weights in the stroller or a kid on the back as well. And so
Right.
sometimes fitness and health and well-being shows up in different ways when you're a parent.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the idea too of bringing someone into the home to prepare meals for you that are nutritious. Because when you do think about the time it takes to find groceries, gas, all that sort of stuff to fill your fridge and then to prepare everything, multiplied by, say, your average hourly rate, you could be saving money, really, at the end of the day. And using, like you said, your headspace towards generating things in your business or your leadership or just, again, your overall well being. It's like I could spend time preparing a meal or go to the gym and work out.
Yeah. If your hourly rate is $1 more
Hmm.
than what you would be paying someone, do it. And if that's not providing like the top 10 life to your years kind of activities and feeding your soul, I say just do it and then find a way to make more, because you're going to be billing more for that time. And slowly, even if you end up getting one client and it creates more capacity for you,
Hmm.
and then and that took 25% of the time that it saved you, well, then you've got 75% of the time to do whatever you want with.
Yeah, I love the example. There's a entrepreneur, Rachel Rogers. She's written a book called How to Be a Millionaire, and she talks exactly about that. Like when you start making your first revenue in your business, hire a cleaner, bring in a chef, like all those sort of jobs around the house that just wear you down. And it's like not necessarily a test of your capability, like you said. It's like, yeah, I could do tons of things right during the day, but it's like, do I need to do those things? And would it be better for me to spend some time resting or connecting with people that I love or ideating around new offers in my business versus proving that I can clean the toilet or three toilets? Yeah.
Certainly. I
Yeah.
think my personal belief is that people go to cleaning right away. And the example you gave was perfect. That's what I think that should go to food immediately
Hmm.
and not cleaning, because food is what impacts your daily decisions, your capacity, your health. And the cleaning, well, that doesn't take as long. But you might not like it as much, but
Hmm.
just get the food taken care of, and then that'll help provide nourishment for everything else. So that's just my personal
Yeah.
belief around that.
No, I love it. Okay. And your second unique.
My second unique is driver.
Hmm.
Um, I am fiercely competitive, and I think at times in Canada, that's like, it's not, maybe some people, it's not the Canadian way, so to
Hmm.
speak, to like just really be competitive. I have a problem. Like, I want to beat you walking across the sidewalk. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm like, everywhere I'm at, I
Hmm.
wake up in the morning and I have 3 buckets: personal, I wake up and I'm out of my bed, my health, and career.
Hmm.
And I think, okay, when I'm at home, how can I empty that bucket so I'm giving everything I freaking can to my kids and my wife and my friends and my community? Health, driving wherever I can within a capacity there. And
Right.
then at work, what can I do to just win on the margins? Can I be at the office 5 minutes earlier than my team, 5 minutes later? Can I carve out a smaller piece for a break? Can I just everywhere? Can I get 3 more emails in? You know, it's just like in me through sport and just I don't know how to explain it. It used to be problematic actually in friendships and with
Right.
relationships. And because I know it, like, it wasn't fun to be around me if I just can't turn that off. but now I've
Yeah,
got a little bit of maturity. Hopefully I've been blessed with the maturity, I love to say, but
right.
I I can temper that or understand what's happening, what I'm doing, or how I'm feeling,
Mhm.
to not need to impose my will or need to win, or to be right for whatever reason, to
Yeah.
remove some goofy attachment that I might have had to some just belief.
Well, and maybe I'll share this for the listeners, but also for you. I think in my observations of talking to people about their uniques is number one, your first unique that you shared with us. And I want to say that there's a reason why you introduce well-being first versus driver, is that maybe through maturity, wisdom, age, you've realized, hey, it's like I can still be a driver, but I'm not going to sacrifice my well-being. So, I'm still utilizing that strength or that unique capability that I have as a driver. However, I'm going to use well-being first, right? And so that kind of tempers it. Second thing is that oftentimes we know what our strengths are at a very young age, and we've been tempered by other people, right?
Mm,
And so then we get these conditions around, well, maybe I shouldn't show up in that driver capacity, or to your point earlier about how maybe some people, it's rubbed people the wrong way a little bit, but we don't have necessarily the skills around how to set boundaries, how to be intentional with our communication. So we just take that criticism or that feedback, and then we downplay our strengths.
it's
So
interesting. Sorry, go ahead. That
yeah.
you mentioned that as well. I never thought about that, but that's spot on. Everything that you've shared. I uh, Around age 25, I
Mhm,
had three people very close to me pass away.
mhm,
One from suicide, another from cancer, and another an accident here, just hiking on the Lions.
mhm.
And I just delved into work.
Yeah.
I was working literally every single day, 16 hours a day. People say, oh, well, how can, the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, I couldn't even hold a tennis racket that summer. I
Mhm,
wasn't training. Wasn't, both my forearms were burnt out. I had a rash on my forearm, on my hand. Both my eyes were twitching, 5 to 6 bowel movements a day. Couldn't keep food in as
mhm.
fast as it'd come in and go out. And I was just burning up, basically my foot on the gas and
Right.
not really thinking about my own well-being at all. I was trying to help everyone else in the world but myself.
Mhm.
And then I went to the doctor and he's like, when is the last time you had a vacation? Or when
Yeah,
is the last time you
just
didn't
slept.
work
Yeah.
a day? Yeah, I wasn't sleeping either. I was super
Mhm,
irritable because I wasn't sleeping and you're working. And so I just delved into work and tried to kind of, that was a way my coping, I thought about, oh, maybe I should just like so I looked into becoming a Navy SEAL. Maybe I can just turn into become a robot and just not think of the world and
mhm.
go and just become a machine. And anyway, I that's when it was a big wake up call for me, because I just went full on, and maybe that's the driver in me, and it was just go 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 go, and not allow this pain and these things to be dealt with
Mhm.
in probably a healthy fashion.
Right.
And so that brings me to where I am today. Hopefully there's a little bit of balance compared to the past.
Well, it sounds like it. It's good. It's all part of the learning and the journey. So as long as we're like still plugged into the ride, then it's all part of it. And your third unique.
My third unique is game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. I've gone through a number of different values exercises, and that's come up. These uniques have come up consistently in the different exercises and with different individuals. And the game changer is, it's very aligned with ReFrame and the business and how we look at things. I think for a while there, everybody was using the word disruptive.
Yes.
And I feel like it was just being overused. Not everything is disruptive,
Right.
but
You can have status quo sometimes too, right? Like it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, there's something great about that.
Mhm,
And I remember hearing a quote from Jeff Bezos, and he was talking about, everybody talks about building a company or building their and their journey about, oh, what's going to change in the future. And he said, we're building Amazon for the things that we know aren't going to change. Everybody wants things super fast and they want amazing customer service.
Mhm.
And we're going to build everything around that. And so when I think about game changer, how that shows up for me is what can we look and just slightly tweak and continue to look at things from a like Kaizen process of continuous improvement?
Right.
And are there ways that we can be disruptive if we can, if there's a possibility, or that can come into our sphere of influence? And so I think for game changer in ReFrame and the culture index, we want to be open and transparent with people about
Mhm.
everything that's happening. Income, equity, control, all the elements. And we're a B corporation. They're in the commercial space for insurance on ReFrame side. There's, I don't believe there's a insurance brokerage in Canada that is a B
Right.
Corp. We were
Yeah.
awarded top 5% of B Corps globally for the supporting the workers category.
Mhm.
And I'm very proud of our team for that. And so, and game changer, I think about it for my kids. I think about it for my wife. Like, how am I going to be a better husband? How am I, my kids are growing up in Vancouver in one of the nicer areas of Vancouver. How do I ensure that they have grit
Mhm.
and that they have an amazing, amazing privileged life?
Right.
How can I ensure that they're not weak, and when challenges are presented to them, big life challenges, that they're not going to crumble and it's not going to implode their world? And I still have a challenge answering that and figuring out how. And part of it's just ideally through being a good example and looking at ways to be better.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I love the way you define game changer too, because automatically when I think of that, so that's where again when you're defining your three uniques or your strengths, it's like really make sure that they're customized to you because people may have a perception of what game changer is, and the fact that you quantified that it's not or qualified that it's not disruptive all the time. It can be those, 2% iterative changes when you talk about Kaizen, right? It's like it just could be even like
Mhm.
2% shift that exponentially gets you this result that you've wanted. Um, and I love that. So it doesn't necessarily have to take this exerted effort. I've seen that with teams too, or organizations that just put so much pressure on teams every single year around their strategies, SMART goals, OKRs, whatever those things are. And I love all those methodologies. I've grown up on them, but at the same time, teams are burning out and they're not necessarily getting the results that they want. So, how can you just even like get really refined on like what are those like, aligned goals that everyone can have and you move the needle by 2%, but exponentially it grows people, grows the organization, grows your customers.
I love the a couple books that get me thinking of that. Maybe some of the best books that I've read in the last years that have really impacted me and really I felt really aligned with. Um, Essentialism.
Yeah. Greg
It,
McGowan. Yeah.
it is great. And
Yeah.
then I loved and I think I should read it every year. Atomic Habits
Yeah.
and
Game changer.
implementation intention around everything and the action and the small habits and how you can get the wins. I truly believe, like, when I look at some of the people around me, I want to be surrounded by people that have a superpower that I'm in awe of,
Hmm.
and that I'm fighting entropy in the organization and the organizations. I want to everywhere people are adding, and I'm going to look around me in a few years and think, wow, I'm sure glad that I was the founder, because if I wasn't, I don't know if I could be hired here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. Well, that's how it should be with leadership, right? But all too often, I think in some organizations, the leader feels like they need to know everything, be everything, get credit for everything. And it's like, no, no, no. Like, start weaning yourself off of that. Be that visionary, that intention, that guidepost for people that people want to be a part of. I always say that leadership is future that was never going to happen, right? And so you want to be connected to that leader because you want to be part of that future and building it. But a leader cultivates more leaders, right?
Mhm.
So if they're spent time doing all the tactical work, they're not cultivating leaders.
Yeah. A
Um,
great short book that I really loved on
yeah.
leadership, of servant leadership, is called Leadership is an Art.
Hmm.
And just a great book. And it just really aligns with how I want to serve people and be of service to the community and leave a legacy that is impactful and doing good in the world.
I love it. So, Antonio, speaking of habits or intentions, what's like one habit that you've maybe adopted for yourself, say over the last year, that's really paid off?
One habit that I've adopted in the last year that's really paid off. Good question. Oh,
I could span it, so
okay.
that's fine.
I've got a. I used to sit a lot for most of my meetings,
Hmm.
and my background is I specialized in ergonomics as kinesiology kind of background and sports science, and I got into a habit of just sitting too much.
Hmm.
And I realized it was super tight for my hips and I just wasn't feeling as good. And so I'm really focused on standing for part of the day and trying to get more steps in the morning prior to work. Even if I, go to the gym, you can just kind of sit around and lift the weight, rather than, okay, I need to get a certain number of steps in before I come in the morning because
Right.
I'm going to be in meetings. And then around that kind of standing and walking, I've taken this past year, I've been really intentional about getting in a lot of walking meetings,
Hmm. Yeah.
walking, talking. So I just ask for permission around that because some people actually they're not so comfortable. And I know some people have different footwear that they might not feel they're so prepared for that.
Hmm.
So I want to, but that I find has been really, really great for me.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, meet me down at Olympic Village. Let's do the seawall.
Yeah,
Walk from Olympic Village to Grand Island and back. It's a good 45 minutes and good meeting time.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for you. If I was to give you a billboard, this question comes from Tim Ferriss's book, Book of Titans, but I love asking at the end of every podcast. If I was to give you a billboard, and it could be anywhere in the world, what would be on it and where would you put it?
Um, what would be on it and where would I put it? Uh, whew, great question. I guess you want to put the billboard in the most, somewhere like like in Times Square.
Okay.
Most where you're going to get the most views, maybe,
Mhm.
or maybe in London or
Philly or something. Yeah.
you know in Shibuya
Mhm.
in Japan where there's
Yeah.
that intersection there, very
Five-way or six-way intersection or something. Yeah.
and what would it say?
Hmm.
Um, uh, I, what's just coming to mind is be kind because everybody's fighting a different battle that you are not aware of.
Hmm.
And that's just um, kind of what just popped up in my head. I feel like at times, depending on what the question is, there's another side of me that's very David Goggins-esque. If you
Okay.
and is that driver,
Hmm.
and I realize that piece of me isn't for everyone and doesn't resonate with everyone,
Hmm.
and um, the other piece of that piece of me wants to say, like, drive hard, you win life on the margins. And the margins are, the morning, get in, get those habits done, do your 5-minute journal, do it in the morning. Don't try to like do way more, just
Mhm.
do what's there and then do the tiny part at the end of the night. Um, get those habits dialed and don't compromise on them at all, because when people are trying to pack your schedule and fill your life with all these things, ask yourself, like, is that aligned with my goal? And if it's not aligned, say yes to your goal and be aligned with your goal. You don't even have to tell the person no. Just if you don't like saying no and that doesn't resonate, just say yes. I'm going to say yes to being aligned with my goal and completing this, and people understand. And
Mhm.
it's okay to do that. And so drive, you win life on the margins.
Okay, so I mean, we can have like a dual-sided be
Yeah.
kind and
It's
then
like,
drive on
those boards that flip
that
to
pivot.
something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one of them at Burrard and Fourth. You can take that
Yeah,
one for if you want. Okay,
perfect.
awesome. Antonio, it's been awesome having you on today. Thanks so much for being a part of it and sharing your three uniques with everyone. And we'll make sure that people check out the Canadian Culture or Canadian Workplace Culture Index. So,
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me today.
and for everyone listening, I always say this at the end. Remember, there's 7.8 billion people on this planet. So get out there and share your three uniques.
Awesome.
For everyone.
Thanks.